Tuesday, September 6th, Board of County Commissioner meeting to order. Beth, can you do roll call, please?
Barry,
Here.
Steve,
They're working on it. Give it a second. I see Lindsay's pushing buttons. Steve, are you
Bo?
on?
Here. For Bo.
David,
Here.
Steve, Steve,
You want me to talk? Can you hear me now? Keep talking. You want me to sing a song? I don't think anybody here would appreciate that. Yeah, we could sing happy birthday to Barry if that's, did we still have no Steve?
No, I can hear you.
All right.
oh, Steve's here, okay.
All right, we have a quorum. We will proceed. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, first thing on here is the consent agenda. What are the wishes, gentlemen?
Motion to approve as presented, Mr. Chairman.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bo. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Motion carried. We are going to jump into unfinished business, the Second Amendment Sanctuary Proclamation. Commissioner Kemp, did you get a chance to review the last meeting?
Yes.
Okay, with that being said, we've already discussed it, and we will turn it over to the board. We will need a motion to move forward.
I would make a motion that I'm trying to find it here, I can't have the number, but that we would pass the resolution for, resolution number 2022-08-16.
I'll second.
Okay, motioned and second. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none. Oh, go ahead.
Well, we go back over it, I guess. We had that meeting with Karen and the sheriff, and at the meeting, everybody was on board with it. I mean, everyone was okay with the language of it, and, so I really see why we wouldn't go along.
Anybody else from the board? Got anything else, Bear?
Would like ask Karen if, at that meeting, you were, because I asked you what would give you the most heartburn about it, and you said it was that first paragraph. So we spent some time and reworded it, and you had stated that you were okay with it at that meeting, but I was just curious as to why you would not be okay with it now.
At that meeting, I believe that I had issues with not only the first paragraph about voiding federal law, but I also had an issue with giving the sheriff the right to arrest federal agents trying to enforce federal law. At that meeting, at that meeting, I was okay with putting the wording in but I also said during that meeting that it was really up to the board. I never said at that meeting that I was in favor of that resolution because that's not my position to do. My position is to give legal advice to this board and to county staff. And so my idea in putting language in there to change it is that if the board was going to adopt this resolution, then there was going to be language in there to sort of give some sort of wiggle room or some discretion to the board about whether or not taking action in it. I never said at that meeting that I was in favor of that resolution. If anybody did take any comments that I made as that I apologize for that, but I never said that I just said that I was okay with the language if the board was going to adopt it.
But in another note, the sheriff was, our last meeting, and he said he was okay with it, so I really don't see why we wouldn't pass it myself, but,
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, that brings us to roll call vote. Beth?
Steve?
No.
Did he say no? Corey?
No.
Bo?
Yes.
David?
No.
Barry?
yes.
Okay, motion failed. Now we move on to Sons of Liberty. Who's going to be speaking for the 30 by 30? Come on up, introduce yourself for the record so we make sure we get it all in there.
My name is Gerald Gorick. I'm president of Sons of Liberty. We're introducing a plan. It's called, dang it, I lost it. Sorry. It's a resolution opposing the 30 by 30 America Beautiful land grab that the government proposed here when Biden got into this administration in the beginning of 2020. He signed a declaration that he would have 30% more of the United States by the year 2030. This has been going on. I handed you guys this. I don't know if you guys got this at all. Yep, they got it. But this land grab agenda has been going on for a long time. And in 1992, Clinton was the first president that signed off on it for us that I'm aware of. And it's been signed off ever since, up until Trump. Well, now Biden is implementing it again, trying to get a depopulation of the world and get more land. They've got a 50-50 plan going too, that they're gonna have 50% control of the United States land by the year 2050. So we're initiating this in Williams County to stop any kind of federal land grab that they can do in this county. So all land stays here as it is. If federal land is going to get any more land, they have to give up some of their other land that they already have in order to buy more land or purchase more land or steal more land. So that's what we're introducing, hoping it'll pass, so we can keep the land of Williams County as it is.
So by 2030, they would have roughly about
53%.
53% of the land, and then if they get their way by 2050, they would be another 20%, correct?
Another 30, yeah, another 20%, yep. And they already own, I can't remember what the numbers are, but they'll end up with about 85% of all land in the United States by the year 2050. And if they get that, then they control the whole world food market. Well, because this isn't only in the United States, this is worldwide what they're trying to do. So then they control all the world, in all the food in the world. Once you control the food, you control the people. And that's what they're after. And that's the same thing we're trying to introduce to that Second Amendment thing that you guys just voted down. That's our federal government, federal overreach every way you look at it. We're trying to stop it here at the local level so it can't go any further. There's no reason not to pass that. That was Karen flat out lied to every one of us.
Well, we're gonna stay on the 30 by 30. The other one's done. So now we gotta stay on this one.
It's coming back. I'm bringing it back.
So, I did quite a bit of reading after this got sent out, the 30 by 30. Help me understand, it looks to me like it's all voluntary. That's even when the administration came out with it, it said it was voluntary to do this. Did I miss something? Because I sure could have.
It's voluntary to a certain extent. They go on like all your waterfall agencies, all your CRP contracts and the end clause in CRP contracts in certain states, certain clauses, it states that that land becomes federal land at the end of that contract. It doesn't stay with the farmer. It doesn't stay there, just like a 99-year lease with some of these wildlife refuges they have. It's supposed to go back to the farmer. In the fine print, when you read into it, it doesn't. It goes back to federal.
And I
That's
think,
what we're trying to kill.
I know, Daryl Leeswood talked about this one other time I was at a thing, and even if you don't, say if your neighbor's got a big slough and he signs it up and rolls it into this, they can dictate to you what you do to your land because you're within a certain distance of theirs. So I mean, there's fingers into it that you can get tangled up in it with it without even doing it.
Without even trying. Through your CRP contracts, through the government program for your farmers, all your Ducks Unlimited, Pheasants Forever, Mule Deer Foundation, all the entities take money out of this. And that's thrown at the people to get the land away from the people. I was just looking up this morning, Ducks Unlimited gets $100 million a year from the federal government in grants. The Pheasants Foundation gets $42 million a year in grants from the federal government. That comes out of the farm program. So all that money is taken away from us. For what? For hunting rights? No, it's to take the land away from the people.
Right, and then that same, they got a private partner too, that's this American Prairie Reserve. They
I
will,
got that right here.
they can come in and buy your land, and then they just turn around and sell the easements back to the government, so then they get the land, it don't really cost them anything, and then it's tied up because their idea conservatism is zero human involvement. No access, no hunting, no fishing, no haying, no grazing, you just get to look at it.
They want a buffalo cow is what they want. They've taken millions of acres out of Montana right now, and they're working this way. We just want to preserve the land that's here as it is, and that they can't have federal overreach over the land like they do everything else.
Does anybody else got
Doesn't
any
it
questions?
require-
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Just a quick question, Gerald. Doesn't it require somebody to sell the land or enter into any kind of contract? And if we were to do something to get in between somebody selling their land to somebody, isn't that infringing on people's rights? I'm trying to get my head wrapped around this as well. Thank you.
What it is, you secure the land as it is, because people enter these contracts not knowing what's going on. And the federal government comes in and just takes it away from you. And we're trying to stop that in any way possible through wildlife reserves, through CRP contracts, government contracts. They're all trying to weed their way in to get the land from the farmer. Yes, they sign a contract, but unknowingly. So this gives them a little bit of a resource of how to get their land back out of what the government is doing. The government is not for the people. If you heard Biden's speech last week, he's coming after anybody that's basically Republican.
I would agree with that. I mean, I've never seen anything quite like that when you can call basically 50% of the population extreme threat and a clear and present danger to our democracy. That's quite a mouthful.
It is.
Gerald and Barry, help me understand something. First of all, let me say I'm totally against, obviously, any federal land grab. But it seems to me that this situation is way bigger than Williams County, North Dakota. I mean, this is a nationwide issue. So I guess I'm trying to understand by this being adopted, if it was or wasn't in Williams County, what do we gain out of it? I mean, where do we go? Because my belief is the only way that this is going to get changed is for people to get out and vote in November. That's where change needs to be made, in my opinion. Because if we adopt this, and there is big changes this November, and there's big changes, I guess I would call it a red tidal wave in 2024, what do we do then? Do we go back and reverse this, what we've done, because everything's fine for 4 years? Or, I'm just trying to understand, so help me understand.
Well, this resolution would stay in standing just the way it is. You wouldn't have to change anything. This resolution would stay in the standing that it is. You wouldn't have to change anything. It just secures what we have now. And that's all we're trying to do with the Second Amendment thing too, is just secure what we have now. So federal overreach doesn't take anything more than they already have. I mean, there could be a red wave coming, but if we don't change at the election machines, you're never gonna win, because the election machines just buy the votes anyways, or steal the votes away from you.
But by
this
adopting
doesn't-
this, it doesn't guarantee us to make a change either, though.
But we make a change here, and we gotta start at the grassroots level, we gotta start at home. And if we can move this thing through every county throughout the state of North Dakota, then we preserve the land in North Dakota. And that's our biggest goal, is to preserve the land in the state of North Dakota. We gotta start somewhere. Sitting on your hands saying, oh, leave it up to the federal government is killing us.
Right, and I think, I like what Dave was saying, with any luck, things do change, but, you know, I wouldn't put it, I don't really trust either side. So, I think this is, I'm not sure how you get past the point with what Steve brought up, though. I don't know how you, I don't know if you would limit it or what, but I mean, a private seller can obviously sell his land if he wants. I don't know how you're gonna change that, but you can give the person enough information where you can make a clear, weighted decision anyway.
So one question I have is, by signing this resolution, would it protect property in Williams County from a presidential proclamation of national monument? Do you know? I mean, that's, so part of my concern about this is a proclamation for basically preserving land for national monument use, which happened in Utah with the Bears Ears. That region, that was done by presidential proclamation. So, I mean, basically it appears to me that if you, depending on what land you owned and if it was wanted by somebody, they could just proclaim it federal governments and they take it, and they've done it. So would this protect us from that?
It would, and then what they would have to do if they wanted to do that, then they'd have to give up some other federal land, some other place. The same amount of acres that they want to purchase, they have to give up somewhere else.
I mean, Karen, do you have any thoughts on that? Yeah, or Jahan too.
I guess I would probably just go back to what I said before about the Second Amendment thing. I mean, federal law, you know, I mean, if there's a federal program out there and they want to contract with a private landowner, there's nothing that the county can really do about that, really. I mean, passing this resolution, if there's a federal law out there, federal mandate out there that says that they're gonna come in and purchase land from people, this resolution isn't gonna say no, isn't gonna stop that. I mean, it's, Steve has a very good point to it. I mean, this is gonna be contracts between a private landowner and the federal government. The county has no say, and that's, the county's not gonna be a party of it, and this resolution isn't gonna stop those contracts.
That may be true, but so let's say that the feds decide they are interested in the Trenton Recreation Area, and then about 50,000 of those acres down there is a national park. would this resolution protect us from that? Or give us legal grounds to fight?
Sir,
Really, the only way that you would probably be able to fight that really is in a court of law.
Yeah, and I,
Karen, we could do that with or without this resolution.
Oh,
if that
of
was
course,
to happen.
yes, of course, yeah.
And again, the federal gets its power from the states. So the federal does not set precedents over states. Period.
Anybody have any other questions or comments?
other than the fact that, I see no harm in having this. It just, I don't see where we could possibly hurt ourselves by, proclaiming that we're, that we, that we're on board with this. But what could be the downside?
The flip side of that, what is it, how are we helping people? Is it an awareness thing? I mean, because we don't have any legal bounds. What are we accomplishing with it? I think that's more my question. I agree with you, Barry. There's no harm in doing it, but I don't know if they're doing anything. That's my concern.
What it does, it secures the land. So if the federal wants to come in and take some land, they have to give something else up. So the land that we have in North Dakota right now, I don't remember the number, 1.4 million acres, stays North Dakota land. The Fed cannot come in and take land unless they want to give that same amount up. So it stays our land.
And that's where I'm kind of with Steve on that. I can't wrap my head around that because no matter what, we already said we would uphold the Constitution when we took an oath to sit in these chairs. But none of the things that we do supersede federal law. I mean, we can say whatever we want, but federal law is still federal law, and no different than the state law. We follow the state laws too, and I don't see what we're doing. We've already said we're going to defend everything in North Dakota. We're going to do these things as a board, and I guess I don't want to see us a lot of different proclamations and things, and that's my worry on it. It's not that I don't agree with it, because I do. I farm. I don't want anybody taking my land, but everything I read doesn't tell me they're going to take my land unless I want to sell it to them, and it's my choice, and that's where I'm at with the land. So I don't think we 100% disagree, but I'm having a hard time just signing something to sign it.
Oh, and getting back to what Bo was talking about there, you might not see the point in them coming to take your land, but they've actually done this. I mean, they've stepped in and went, all right, we're gonna take this. Well, that is just outright theft.
I agree, but what I'm saying is, no matter what we sign here, it doesn't change the simple fact that the point that Bo brought up, it wouldn't have mattered if that county had signed one of these. They were still taking it. Because they have more stroke than we do. I mean,
But they really don't. There's many cases that they don't have the stroke that you think they do. You have control over your federal government. The state gave the federal government its powers. We enacted them powers for the federal government. So they do not set precedents over state rule. Over Williams County law, they do not set precedents. If you have a sheriff behind you, they cannot come in and do anything to your land. They cannot take it. But the sheriff is the law of the land, and as long as he believes that, you can control what the Fed does. I mean, you got to think who controls your FBI, your CIA. Who does? The Democratic Party. What's the Democrats trying to do right now? This right here. Take your land, take your livelihood, take everything you have, because they want you under control. Now, yeah, if we have a red wave and we win, this probably doesn't need to be done. But how long is that going to last? We let people cross our borders by the millions every year. Just nothing checked. I mean, they don't do a thing to them. Now, we have people playing sports that can't even play sports because they haven't had their COVID shot and their jab. Now, what does that tell you? And we let people in this country, doesn't matter if they're a child rapist, whatever they are, just come on in, take our money. This is your federal government doing this, and you want to entrust everything we have in North Dakota to the federal government? I don't think so. You can't trust them. And if they steal the next election and the next election, next election, 20 years down the road, you have 2 million Americans, 2 million immigrants that are crossing the border. They're all voting the other direction. They're not voting for us. We're going to be a third world country if we don't change this here, and it starts here at our level. We can make a change, but we cannot leave it up to the feds to try and change it because they're not gonna.
One gentleman here that wants, come on up, introduce yourself, and,
Yeah, I'm Jeffrey Wade, and I am a member of the Sons of Liberty too. And I hope you guys all read your emails I sent you. You got all the information? Because I want to make it public knowledge about the treaty in 1947 that the U.S. made with the Bar Association. Because you're starting to base your answers off our attorney here. And we've seen what your attorney has done with a 180-degree reversal on the 30, or on the
let's
Second
stay,
Amendment.
yeah, let's stay on track.
But
if you have
this,
something.
still, if you're gonna base your off of her.
What I'm saying is, you
So-
go ahead and give us the info.
Yeah, I got the info here, if you guys want. And this is on the treaty and what the 81st. Yep. On the treaty and what the first. Sure.
I got it. Did you send, I know you sent it to me, because I got it, but did you send it to everybody? They're wondering, they didn't.
Yeah, everybody got it except, Bo, or not Bo, Barry. Because I think Barry had already seen it.
I know I got it, I read it.
You know, and so, and then what our 81st congressional, and if we need to, we can go back to the congressional record and get what their determination was, but I believe it'll go, you know, agree with this material that I've handed out. So I would much rather that we vote for, in our hearts, what you were elected to do, stand up for the people's rights, which is what we're trying to do here, so that the federal government doesn't overreach and start taking our land. And you can see how attorneys mess things up, fighting both ways, doesn't matter. They're not working for us, they're working for the state. And I hope you guys can see that.
Well, the one sitting behind you is elected. I mean, it's an elected position, the state's attorney in
Did she
Williams County.
register with FARA then?
That I don't have an answer for, but I mean,
Well, that would
our
be a-
state's attorney is an elected position.
Yeah, well, then they're supposed to register with FARA, saying they're a foreign agent, because they are a member of the Bar Association.
Okay.
So I wish you'd check into that and see if we got a foreign agent that's not registered working for the county.
Okay, you got anything else?
No, I sure hope you would do pass on this resolution on the 33rd land grab, because our federal government is overreaching on the American citizens.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Don, do you have something else?
Dawn Hollingsworth, constituent. There was comments made regarding that federal law trumps all. I read CFRs constantly with compliance and whatnot, whether that's safety, whether it's DOT, all of the above, all of those pieces. And within all of those law and the CFRs, which is the Code of Federal Regulations, that is the law. And they all reference and they go back to, you need to go according to, we have the recommendation for our US. However, whatever the state has set forth, that's what you need to go by. So to say that the government trumps North Dakota, I don't see any truth to that. That's not real. And what makes up the entire state is, like they were saying, we're right here, we're grassroots. We do have a say. We do have the authority to trump them. It's right in law. So I don't trust legal what I'm hearing. I don't trust, I'm in more so favor in agreement of what they're saying. There's no reason we can't have something like this, like they're saying. It's not going to harm either way, but it is something there. If something does transpire or come forth, we have something within our county saying, no, we have already said this, we have already decided. If something does try to transpire or transpose, we have already set the precedent that no, this is not going to occur in our county. And we have the authority and the right to do so. So that was just something I wanted to bring up.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other questions from the board? I guess at this time, we will turn it over to make a decision.
Well, I would make a motion that the Williams County adopts is there a number to this, or the 30 by 30 resolution opposing the 30 by 30 America the Beautiful and half-earth land preservation programs and supporting continued private ownership of land.
I will second.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion before we vote?
I mean, my support of this goes back to, I've seen administrations on both sides of the aisle condemn land in both Montana, Utah, the ones that I can think of, for national monument. And that in turn, the American Prairie Reserve is one of the biggest issues that those folks have over there now. They are private individuals are selling their land to APR. I mean, there's nothing we could do about that. But they're seeking ranches that are close to a federal monument that they will be allowed to work in conjunction with. And that federal monument, I believe, goes to the Bush Agency. So that's where my support is of this. I would also say that we may want to give this the same discussion and treatment that the Second Amendment one did and be brought back later. But I'm in support of it today, but if others feel there should be more discussion, I'm also in support of that.
Any other discussion?
Bo, just a quick question with regards to this. Again, I'm in favor of this, but I'm concerned that it doesn't do anything. Can you, Bo, from your perspective, especially as a landowner and being in support of this, can you provide me kind of what you think this will help us do?
Well, that's the clarification I would like to see is, does this protect us from either some federally mandated or proclaimed national monument declaration in Williams County? If that makes sense. That's a clarification I would like, because if it would help protect us from that, I think it does do something, and it's very local. I would like to know if they had some kind of a resolution like this in those counties in Montana, if they could have condemned that land for national monument that they have there. That's just my thoughts. That's why I'm wondering what level of further discussion or research we would need.
Sure. Thank you.
Does that help you, Steve?
Yeah, I agree. Maybe there's, because I would hate to just do something, I would rather do something to do good and make it work.
Yeah, no, I totally understand.
So I guess my question would be is, are we wanting to, I guess, take a step back and answer these questions before we have a vote? Because if, that's what it sounds like to me. I think we have probably more questions than answers right now. And I don't disagree with you, Bo. If it's gonna do that, that changes my view on it completely.
Same
So,
here.
if it actually does that. So what are the thoughts of the board? Is that something you wanna do?
Well,
We already turned it over to the board. I apologize.
We, you know, it says in here, on the third page there, well, the state of North Dakota in April of 21, they made this proclamation, or, you know, North Dakota and 14 other states have already got together and are opposing this. Our Senator Kramer is on board with this resolution. I would think that, I mean, we would just be, it would just make sense that we would join them. What, I mean, why would we not? I don't see where we wouldn't be on board with this resolution myself, but.
Barry, did you say that North Dakota and 14 other states have already adopted this?
Yep, well, no, we would be the 14th one. Says, Governor Burgum joined 14 governors on April 21st, 2021 in opposing 30 by 30 and posing specific questions to the administration on how it will be implemented, and to this day, them questions haven't been answered. One of the main things in here is they wanted to know what, this is all done for conservation. Okay, so they asked them, well, what's your idea of conservation? They won't give an answer to it. So Trent Luce and Darrell Lees, they've dug into it, and that is, they'll roll the fences up. You will, you know, there will be no more section line accesses. There won't be any. There will be zero human involvement. And if you can, I mean, you can take them for their word. They're telling you this is what they want to do. This is what they're planning on. By 2050, they'll have control of 87% of the land. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that the Governor Burgum and the other 14 governors, they actually sent a letter to the president. They didn't adopt this resolution, but they did send an open letter to the President Biden opposing the 30 by 30 federal conservation plan, and also raising a number of questions about the federal government was supposed to be working with the states, but never had reached out to the states quite yet. And I did reach out to the governor's office last week to see if they'd actually even heard anything of the state. I haven't heard back from the governor's office. So I just want to clarify that the governor didn't sign this resolution. He signed a letter to the president opposing this plan, so.
Barry, you seem to be pretty involved in this. Have any other counties in North Dakota adopted this yet?
Yes, I'm not, I know Renville did, I don't know, Kathy, do you know? And Barnes? Okay.
Thanks, just curious. I'm just gonna add one more thing,
Would
Mr.
they,
Chairman, if I may. It seems like, as Bo said, there's questions that need to be answered, so I'm just gonna mention that I agree that I think maybe we need to submit this to a committee and do a little more research on our own before we make a decision, but we do have a motion and a second on the table.
Which we could table, or table this motion or refer it to a committee, which would be.
And I see heads nodding that we can do that. I happen to agree. I think there's more questions, and I think we need to get them answered and make sure that we're making the proper decisions. So, how do we go about that? Do we just say we're gonna table it and refer it to a committee?
Sure. Yeah, if you're gonna refer it to a committee, I would suggest you decide who's gonna be on this committee, really, so, yeah.
Yeah, it would be, I would make a motion, we refer this,
And
refer
it-
this to a committee and then would be either chaired by whoever we decide to report back at the next commission meeting.
Sure, and just so you know, I mean, that meeting will be an open meeting, so.
Okay, so that was a motion you made? Is there a second to that?
Well, second it for discussion, I guess. What, to what end? I mean, what do we, this, when we get together, get together and discuss this as to, answers the questions we haven't even thought of yet, but clearly we've been waiting for over 2 years on the questions that the governor's already asked them and they haven't answered them. You suppose they're gonna really care what we think?
Barry, I would think, I was just sitting there thinking maybe this is something we could run up through the North Dakota Association of Counties, and maybe, get all the counties behind this. Would be my thought.
I mean, I would agree that would be, because I am not at all against it. I mean, if there was a resolution that I would get behind, this is one. So I want to make sure though that, like Steve asked, are we doing anything? I mean, we're here to help answer questions and to solve problems. We understand that, to my knowledge, nobody no federal government has tried to take any land in Williams County that I know of. So are we answering a problem there? Probably not. But it has happened in places in this country too. So if this resolution could protect private property and citizens in our county, that's the question I want to know. Is it going to do something, or is it, I mean, if it's specifically just symbolism, then, I mean, the five of us could say, yeah, we're 100% against federal land grab, but unless there's some kind of teeth behind it, I don't know if it does us any good. I mean, I don't disagree with any of this stuff. It's just that we're here to, in my opinion, we're here to solve problems that the public has, and if this solves a problem, then I'm all for it. And maybe the committee reporting back by the next meeting isn't enough time. I understand people want answers right now, but I feel like it affords some extra research and time to see if it solves anything, and two, if it is a North Dakota Association Counties priority that we get them involved and get a whole bunch of North Dakota counties signed on if it solves a problem.
I agree with you, Bo. I mean, obviously, I don't want them taking land. There's no question about that, but I want to see if it has the teeth. And I like Steve's idea of trying to send it to Association of Counties to see where they sit on it. There is options, so.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, it would be nice that, it would be ideal if all the counties in the state adopted it, but, it's gotta start someplace. And I don't really see why it doesn't start here.
You can always add to it to put some more verbiage in there to make it better. But at least we got something to start with. It isn't gonna hurt us.
Yeah, we do have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there anything else from the board? So the motion, Bo, is to table it and send it to a committee. And that's been moved and seconded.
And you have on here chaired by, and you didn't say anybody, and report back at the next meeting?
Yeah, that might be too soon, but I would be, yeah, I can chair it.
Chaired by Bo?
Yeah.
And do you want to just take, report back to the next meeting out?
Probably, or report back at a later meeting. The committee can decide when we're ready, I guess. If whoever seconded it is okay.
Barry, are you okay with that, with him chairing it?
Yes, I would be.
Okay.
I have it then.
All right, any other discussion on it? Roll call, Beth?
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes, motion carried. All right, now we go into planning and zoning.
Just a note, this committee, who's it gonna be made up of? Do we?
Well, I
do
would say we do a similar
well,
situation. If one other commissioner wants to join, it's a public meeting, so if,
Right, but I meant, are we gonna, I don't know, Gerald, are you interested in being on this committee then, or who? Okay, Wade? Okay, how many do we want? Or how many, I mean, how big a show are we making?
I guess we'll have to have, either Jacon or Karen and one other commissioner and the sheriff. Right?
Sure.
Is that sufficient? And somebody to take minutes?
Yeah. Not to speak for Verlin, but I don't, I mean, because this doesn't really involve, I mean, it doesn't really require Verlin to do anything. If you want him on there, but I just don't know if he's really a necessary part like the other one, really. I'm just saying, but that's.
Well, he is the top law enforcement officer in the county, so I think it's important that
Well,
he's there.
it
So-
would be
Because we need to have him weigh in on these things too.
Right, because I
So-
mean, if we were gonna try to get together to come up with some teeth for this resolution, obviously he would be involved sooner or later.
You're good with being on that? Okay, so we've got the two commissioners, Gerald and Jeff, and, the. Okay, and then we'll leave it up to the committee chair if he wants to add, subtract, do what he wants. Sam, word to you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sam Miller with County Planning. First on the agenda, we have LU-0074-22. Ed Rentamaki is the surveyor on behalf of Martin Hansen's property. They are requesting a zone change to rural residential for 2 lots created through the minor subdivision process. The parent property is currently within the agricultural zoning district. They're working through the minor subdivision process. We're still reviewing the plat to make sure it's technically correct. But the 2 lots that that are on the docket today for that rural residential zoning classification, one is roughly 7 acres and one is 5 acres. One lot will encompass an existing home, and then another, based on what was described at the last planning and zoning meeting, Mr. Hansen was there, will be going to a family member for a single-family home. So the 7 acre lot will take access from County Road 3, and the 5 acre will take access from County Road 12. There are site pictures within your packet. At the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, this was heard on the 18th. They recommended unanimous approval of this item with one condition, and that was to adhere to Williams County zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations. I'd like to add a second condition, and that just be to record the plat when it's at that stage. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I see the applicant's present. Do you have anything to add?
Martin Hanson. We've got a guy that works at the elevator in Zoll, Marty Iverson, wanted a farmstead. He said nobody will sell him one. I said, well, if my wife will agree and if the county agrees, maybe we'll sell you one. So we took out a 5-acre plat where we lived until I was 10 years old. Then we moved. My grandfather had built the house that was there. My dad built the garage that's still there. And we took out 7 acres where we currently live, and I'm planning on selling the rest of the land to my stepson and my grandson. I just figured we'll get this done and get it over with. Marty and his wife can have a place in the country where their 2 little kids can run around, and somebody can live where actually the land was homesteaded by my great-grandmother. So it'd be nice to have somebody living there again. Rural water's right across the road. The NCC telephone line is right in the edge of the ditch. I've already talked to the neighbors about getting the electricity up there. They don't have a problem. I think it's a pretty good deal for Iversons and be a good deal for us. So I'd appreciate you passing it. Any questions?
Okay, anybody got any comments, questions? If not, what are the wishes of the board?
I'd make a motion to, to approve and have, follow planning and zoning's decision.
Along with Sam's extra recommendation?
Yep.
One second.
Okay, moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call?
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
Motion carried. Thanks for coming to visit us. You should have caught Helen. I bet she could have hooked you up. Okay, sorry, Sam, go ahead.
Next is LU-0075-22. Karen Fox is requesting a conditional use permit to operate a mercantile on the roughly 1 acre property that she lives on. The property is currently within the rural residential zoning district. So the CUP would be to operate the mercantile. Based on our conversation, she'll be selling refurbished furniture, decor, and local products, and a small cooler inside for prepackaged meat and cheese out of a schoolhouse that they're going to place on their property. There is a site plan listed in your, or attached in your packet. As you all know, CUPs are non-transferable, so if they ever sell the property, that schoolhouse will have to be removed, or at a minimum, the mercantile will have to cease. So that will stay with the owners. Access will be taken from 129th Avenue. No township comment was received. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this at their meeting and recommended unanimously approval for this item with those 2 listed conditions. One of them I just wanted to make mention of. So if this use creates degradation to, that's a county road. If it creates degradation to that county road, the applicant will have to enter into a road maintenance agreement to help with the maintenance of that road.
Is that normal for a little CUP, little business like this to be in charge of a county road?
Personally, I don't think that they're going to generate enough traffic for it to be a problem, but I feel like it's always good just to have it in there if for some reason this blows up and there's constant traffic.
Who decides
Who decides what?
if the road's degraded because of their business?
The county. Highway. Dennis.
I was just gonna say, but you wanna jump on that one, Dennis? Yeah, I don't know. I guess that'd be my only question. It'd pretty, I don't think it's field of dreams in Iowa that we're gonna, if we build it, they will come. I mean, I hope they do well, but I don't know. I guess I kinda struggle with that a little bit, but the rest of it looks fine to me. I agree. So any other discussion? What are the wishes?
I'll make a motion to approve following planning and zoning's recommendations, but I too would have a trouble with a kind of a sideline business at your home being responsible for the county road, so. I would strike, the first recommendation.
So motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Beth, roll call.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next on the agenda is LU-0077-22. Bobby Wyrock is requesting a conditional use permit for an additional dwelling on an approximately 10-acre property. This property is currently within the rural residential zoning district. So just a bit of a recap. A few months ago, this board had passed that 2 homes on an agriculturally zoned property that was 40 acres or more could have those 2 homes without a conditional use permit. In the rural residential zoning district, we still make that a conditional use permit. So that's why this is before you today. There's a site plan that's included in your packet that will show, so there is an existing home, obviously. That home is gonna be moved to the northwest corner of the lot, and then a new home will be placed where this existing home is. So they're still gonna take access from that 54th Street. The Planning and Zoning Commission met and heard this item on the 18th of August. There was concerns that had been raised with the proposed additional dwelling. The commission believed that the intent of allowing an additional dwelling was to service family members or farmhand help. The applicant had stated originally they had stated that they would possibly rent out the additional dwelling, and then later clarified at that meeting that it was going to be used for guest housing for family. The commission also mentioned the dense residential development to the south of this property, still a part of this subdivision, but there's, if you could zoom out and scroll down. So to the south of this property, there's 4 lots there. There's like a pretty dense housing development. All of it is in conformance with our code, or in compliance with our code. The commission had just mentioned that they weren't really a fan of the dense development in this area, and that possibly adding an additional dwelling would just further the amount of homes in that area. So there was also mentioned too that at the time of this subdivision, there wasn't much favor for this, but I pulled up the documents from the original subdivision and zone change, and I couldn't find any public comment letters or, and actually the township at the time had approved that subdivision. So, but yeah, so I was tasked at the planning and zoning meeting with finding out the intent of adding, or really the evaluation criteria for adding an additional dwelling onto a rural residential house. So I'll report back to planning and zoning, but that was those concerns that had been raised. So with that, the Planning and Zoning Commission had recommended denial of this request. It was a 6-1 vote. If this were to be approved, Planning and Zoning Division does have 2 comments. They're listed in your packet there. And the applicant is not here.
What did the township say?
The township for this item had recommended approval. No comment was attached with it, but they recommended approval.
Do you know, have these folks owned this for a while? Because I see it was for sale this spring, and they had open house signs, and I didn't know if they just bought it and were wanting to do this.
I'm not sure when they purchased it.
Any other questions for Sam?
Well, yeah, I do. I guess I did not make it to this particular planning and zoning meeting, but, the reason cause there's 2 homes on lots of places around the country. What was their main thing was just the fact that they didn't want it rented? Is that what I caught, or?
Yes, that was the big concern. that's kind of why they wanted me to look into the intent of having the additional dwellings, is because they had thought that in the past, a lot of the reason why the additional dwelling was granted was because it was going to be used for a family, like an older family member was going to move on to the property, or for like farmhand help. And so this couple had stated that they were going to have this additional dwelling for, she had mentioned that her son was going to come back and rent it out, or maybe down the line they would rent it out as like a secondary income kind of thing. But for the purposes of right now, she had mentioned a few times that she was going to rent it out to her son.
To her son?
To her son,
Oh, well, that family member then, right?
right. But I think she had said that she was going to rent it and didn't clarify that it was to her son, and so that might have gotten misinterpreted, and eventually she had said that she might rent it out to whomever in the future.
I would make a motion to follow planning and zoning's recommendation to deny this.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
No.
Motion carried.
Okay, and then I have one final item on the agenda. So, back in August, your commission had approved and updated the Williams County zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations. As part of that, home occupations were listed as a permitted use in ag, rural residential, urban residential, and existing small lot residential zoning districts. Prior to that, home occupations were conditional use permit. We have some home occupations in the county that had received the conditional use permit with conditions stating that they have to do annual renewal. But since your commission had stated that they're okay with having home occupations listed as a permitted use, I was wondering if we could just remove that condition on existing home occupations that they have to do annual renewal. So, because what had been currently happening was every year they would have to pay that $500 to continue to operate. There was only 2 that I could find, and they've never received complaints either from their neighbors or from the township. So to rid them of having to pay that fee every year, I'm just asking that that condition be removed.
Okay, any questions on that? I would agree, that makes sense. Any, can we, what are the wishes of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we remove the annual renewal for COPs for home occupations.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
All right, now we go to assessor, who is here to talk about the Thomas Y. Pickett contract.
Hello, Commission. I am Christy Gutierrez, and I am here on behalf of Darcy Anderson, who could not make it today. Today, we are just asking for a motion that the chairman be allowed to sign the new Thomas Y. Pickett contract for this year.
Okay, gentlemen, you got any questions on it? I guess if anybody else is wondering, tell me what the Thomas Y. Pickett
Sure.
contract
Thomas Y.
does.
Pickett is contracted through the assessor's office in the county. They actually value all of our industrial properties, things such as saltwater disposals, pipelines, things that the state would not value, but that are a little more out of the scope of the typical thing that the assessor's office would handle.
Okay. What are the wishes of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman, and authorize the chairman to sign. Is that what you're, okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Lindsay.
Good morning. The first thing I have for you is a letter of support request from the Williston Energy Center. They're seeking letters of support right now to be included for contribution requests and things of that nature. They are aware of the forthcoming grant programs in terms of requesting any money from the county. At this point, they're just looking for support of moving forth with the project. I'd included in your packet the information that was provided to us about it. So this would just be seeking authorization to sign the letter of support if you so wish, or making adjustments to that letter as well.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve and authorize the chairman to sign the letter of support for Williston Energy Center.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. The next one is about the funding that we received from the National Opioid Settlement. So as it had been stated in an earlier meeting, we've received the funds. So this is a request to transfer it from our general fund community development account into the behavioral health grant account. In terms of timing, this is mainly just so Christy and I can keep things straight of where the dollars are. The intention would be that it could be utilized as part of behavioral health grants for next year. There's a lot of stringent rules that the settlement puts forth in terms of how the dollars can be spent. And in discussion with the sheriff a little bit, and Christy, it would most likely be utilized in the behavioral health grant world for the county. So Christy wanted a formal motion from the board to make that transfer of funds if you supported that as well.
Any questions? What are the wishes?
I will make that a motion, Mr. Chairman, to transfer the funds from the general fund to the community development, to the behavioral health grant fund.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Motion carried.
Okay, and then the last item is regarding the township loan program. Williams County started this program last year. And then just with talking with Julie a little bit as we were getting ready to send out the reminders, and then we did bring this to the finance committee last month as well, about increasing the overall project cap. So the loan program is a maximum of $250,000 for the loan. But the way that the program was initially written was that the project cap also had to be $250,000. So I did talk to Chairman Hansen a little bit, and Dennis and Julie, the finance committee, and we had settled on a recommendation of increasing that project cap to $500,000, just as it's a little bit more reflective of cost these days, projects that townships might actually be doing, and then also if they do have additional funds that they could put towards it, the higher project cap over the loan cap would allow them to do so. So not changing the loan cap, just changing the project cap from 250 to 500 would be the recommendation that we're seeking approval for.
Okay, anybody any questions?
I would make a motion that we approve them changes.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thanks.
Thanks, Lindsay. Dennis, I think you're up. You got nothing? Okay,
You have to approve those things, those two things that are on the agenda.
The state North Dakota easement and certificate of local match for bridge inspection and load rating? Or,
I guess you have something.
State, our state easements for County Road 11A. For state land.
Oh, for the grant? Is that what it's for?
Yeah, if we get the grant, yeah. I think they're all in one. I'm pretty sure they're all in one.
I-
Just signature and,
I think he's
Notary.
talking about the bridge inspection
but those
and
are,
the easement.
those are whenever they send us a bill for those. They just have to be signed. That was on the agenda, or the consent agenda.
It's not.
Okay.
Okay, so what do we need?
I need two motions, one for the certification of the local match of bridge inspections and load ratings. And then the second one is to sign the state easements on County Road 11. Eh?
well, I would make a motion to approve both of them and have chairman sign.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? Roll call.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Motion carried. All right, now we're down to the Youth Assessment Center.
Good morning. We just need to go ahead and sign the certified shelter care contract. So this covers those kids coming in from the human service centers, not the human service zones, but these are from the centers. So this is that new shelter care stuff that we worked through in August, in August it all became official, August 1st. So.
Well, I would make a motion that we approve it and have chairman sign.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Roll call.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey?
Yes. Motion carried. That was easy, thank you.
And you got a copy of that back.
Karen, you're up.
All right, the first thing is the Northwest Tri-County School Officers Association. Back in 1986, Grant Archer, who was the Williams County Superintendent of Schools at the time, opened up a bank account in the name of Northwest Tri-County School Officers Association. In 2009, the county sort of took over management of those funds, and Beth is now the signatory on the account. Beth came to me, asked me, she said she wanted to close the account, and they really didn't know what to do with the funds. And so I did some search into county records, the Board County Commissioner minutes, records that Beth had, County Auditor's Office, records that Patty had as the superintendent, as the designee for the superintendent of schools. Didn't find anything about that. And then I also reached out to Department of Public Instruction. They didn't have any records of it. And so Patty Ogerchuk suggested I maybe contact Representative Dave Richter because she thought he might have some involvement back then. So I did. I reached out to him and he called me back and he actually said that, yes, he does remember working with Grant Archer. He does remember being part of this association. And he said that over the years, this association has kind of morphed into different entities and stuff. And what it is now actually is the Great Northwest Education Cooperative. And so I actually reached out to them. I received a contact from Ben Schaefer, the executive director, and I explained what was going on with him, and he said that they would be willing to accept the funds. So I ran this through the finance committee. They thought that was a good idea, and so I'm asking for a motion to have Beth close the account. And by the way, there's about 5,000 plus in the account right now. I make a motion to have Beth close the account and transfer the funds to the Great Northwest Education Cooperative. Oh, and just by the way, too, the Great Northwest Education Cooperative, they actually serve schools in Williams County, Burke County, Divide County, McKenzie County, and Montreal County. Even though it's not a tri-county, it's still kind of in this area here, so. Yeah, so if you want me to repeat the motion to close the bank account and transfer the funds to Great Northwest Education Cooperative. That'd be the motion I'm recommending.
So move.
Is there a second? Good, you gotta talk faster when you motion and second when Karen's talking. You gotta keep up. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. On to my next subject.
Come on, pick it up.
Okay, the next thing, okay, so under state law, okay, so the lease that we have for the courthouse right now, it expires on December 1st of this year. Under state law, the county is required to advertise a lease for the courthouse cafe for 3 consecutive weeks if it makes over $25,000 annual gross income, and it does. However, in discussions with Keith Verlin and Jeremy from the sheriff from the jail, about possibly maybe entering into, without, they don't want to be able to, okay, so let me try this. So as an option, instead of having to advertise and possibly just contract with either a current person, the current operator of the courthouse cafe, or somebody else, and not advertise, I thought of the idea of possibly just adopting a home rule charter that allows the county to just enter into a contract with somebody, really. And so instead of having to advertise, we could just enter into a contract without having to advertise, which is probably a good idea because the courthouse cafe lease that we have also includes catering of inmate meals, and so that kind of complicates things a little bit. And so I ran this through the finance committee, and the finance committee was in agreement about maybe moving forward with a home rule charter ordinance that would give the county the option of even just contracting with somebody rather than to advertise. And so I guess I'm asking for a motion from this board to move forward with a home rule charter ordinance, which, yeah.
Anybody got any questions?
Which the draft is what you have in here.
Yes.
Is what it would somewhat look like.
Yep, yeah, and basically it just gives the county the right to enter into a contract without advertising, but it also and these are recommendations also came from the finance committee, is maybe authorize the sheriff, facilities director, and then anybody else the board designates to negotiate any kind of contract if that's the route we go.
Cafe lease.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, Beth.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Just so you know, we will still have to have the 2 readings and publication in the paper, and then you will have to have a final adoption of it. So we'll take care of it over the next month or so, so. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Did I miss any department heads? I think we got everybody. Okay, Helen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we have a couple items on, a couple of positions on the list to be approved. A heavy equipment operator at County Highway, a corrections officer at the sheriff's office, and then we have received a resignation from one of the attorneys at the state's attorney's office as well. So we need permission to fill all of those.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Motion carried.
On the backside, the North Dakota Century Code dictates the number of people to be seated on a city planning and zoning board from the ETJ. And the point of this, of course, is when they have an extraterritorial jurisdiction to make sure that folks in that area are getting some representation on their board. And as our population changed, then we needed to add a seat to both the Tioga and the Williston board. And so you have in front of you, we had one applicant for the City of Williston Planning and Zoning Board, and that is Bob Horb. So I recommend you consider him to be appointed to that seat. And then we're advertising the Tioga seat right now. Something that happened on both of these boards is that they had odd numbers. And so when we contacted them and said, we're gonna need to add a seat, they've needed to make some internal decisions about, do they replace an existing seat? Do they have an even number, or do they add an, you know, they're having to do a little bit of juggling and consideration as well.
So the one for the Tioga planning and zoning, is that gonna be is that just somebody at large, or is that gonna be one of us?
It'll be someone living in the ETJ of Tioga. And so, you know, we've been in touch with the auditor, and they have someone in charge of the planning and zoning type work over there. We've been in charge with both of them, or in touch with both of them. But certainly if you know people in the ETJ, that's what we're looking for. Yeah, and so that's open for 30 to 40 days. It's open right now on our website. People just fill out a couple quick details in order to show their interest.
So are these normally, are they all one-year terms?
No, it's just 1 year to start, and then it's a 5-year term. And that came to us from, you know, that's apparently how it works. New term is short, and then they're 5-year in the back of my head, but I don't have that written down.
Okay, so we have one that we need to approve for the Williston Planning and Zoning. Can we get a motion on that?
I would make a motion to appoint Bob Horb to Williston Planning and Zoning Board. Term runs, or no, term from 10/01/22 to 9/30/2023.
Okay, there's a motion, Commissioner Montgomery seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes, motion carried.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Helen. That brings us to a close. Motion, meeting is adjourned.